Hey everyone, it's time to Nephis and chill. In this video, I'm going to give an overview of what the playable races are planned to be in the upcoming Ashes of Creation, while touching on something I haven't really seen too many people bring up just yet in regards to these races, namely, how the races will affect combat. For the most part, the lore is a bit obscure as a lot of the lore and world building comes in spurts through the Ashes of Creation live streams on Twitch from the creative director Stephane BC, such as the one I'll show in this video.
Yeah, let's go in and kill them all.
Okay. We have to be pretty savvy about how we do that because they suck.
There's gonna be 3 per, 6 per actually.
Oh God, that's horrible. We don't want to do that.
We could just lock them, or we could toss fire in there.
Is that magic item sorted?
It is.
Okay, people are thirsty for lore.
Okay. Law. What is it good for? Absolutely. That's war.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys want to... What?
I'm doing sound check through the stream delay, and I got the lore. What is it good for?
Nice.
Hit me right in the ear.
Vera is a world with rich and diverse cultures. And scene. No, I'm just kidding. Much of its recorded history has been dominated by the major races. Humans of the coast and plains, orcs within the hills and the marshes, elves in the forests and the riverlands, and the esteemed dwarves of the mountains. The major races have held dominance through countless wars and skirmishes between the lesser races of Vera. Decades may pass between these flare-ups of violence. There are many minor races on Vera. Some of the minor races exist in makeshift villages, or tribes, if you will. Some of the major villages among the minor races are comprised primarily of the giants, less reputable sects of human, gnomes, and halflings. The halflings are not halflings in the traditional sense, but actually half-bloods of different races. Wandering the darker places in the world lie truly sinister abominations of creation. The great churches of civilization often dispatch heroes of the state to eliminate these threats to mortals. There currently exist 4 great nations on Vera. This is 25 years roughly before the fall. The Aelan Empire, Pyrian Kingdom, Kivek Protectorate, and the nation of the Dunzinkel. There was not always only 4 great nations. Long ago, the races were more divided into many nations and city-states.
Let's delve into the specifics. So, the history of the world of Ashes of Creation, at least the recorded history of Vera, extends to about 7,000 years, and before or since then, there are primarily 4 races, which include the Aela humans, the Dunzinkel dwarves, the Pyrian elves, and the Kivek orcs. It's a bit Tolkien-esque, but really, what fantasy setting these days isn't like Warcraft or even Elder Scrolls. Under each general race will be 2 separate ethnocultures. For the Aela humans, there will be the Kaler and Vaelun humans. The Dunir and Nikua dwarves under the umbrella of Dunzinkel dwarves will exist. Kivek orcs are comprised of the Renkai and Vek orcs, while the Pyrian elves are comprised of the Empyrean and Pyrai elven folk. I'm not going to get too deep into the lore of Ashes of Creation just yet, probably in a different video, so definitely subscribe to the channel to learn more later. The Kalar humans call the Riverlands their home, and are primarily based on European cultures, with much of their architecture based on medieval France or medieval French architecture. The Vaelun call the deserts their home, with much of their aesthetic being based on cultures from Mesopotamia or from the Middle East. The Dunir and Nikua dwarves are seemingly based on Nordic and Polynesian cultures, respectively, with the typical emphasis on the dwarven fantasy tropes such as craftsmanship, riches, jewelry work, and so forth. What a pretty cool twist, however, is from a recent Ashes of Creation livestream, it was confirmed that the typical heavy or long beard of a dwarf is something that is actually attached to and grows directly from their skull. The Pyrian elves are split into the Empyrean and Pyrai elves, the former borrowing heavily from the imperialistic Greco-Roman culture, while the latter is based more heavily on a general concept of Native American culture with strong emphasis on working with nature. The Kai-Vek orcs are divided into 2 tribes as well, the Renkai and Vek orcs. The Renkai orcs have a focus on martial and self-discipline, while the Vek orcs are more focused on outward exploration, such as gazing into the stars and into the future, borrowing somewhat heavily from the some of the Mesoamerican cultures, whereas the Renkai, supposedly the tallest race in the game as well, seem to borrow a bit from both Mongolian and Japanese culture. A 9th race was also added to the Ash of the Creation universe called the Tolnar, meaning the Forgotten. This was a Kickstarter milestone, which is basically a hybridization or resulting kind of race between multiple different combined genealogies of the 8 other races and cultures. Stephane Sheriff, interestingly enough, described the Tolnar as not perhaps equaling furries, but there are definitely some bestial components that you can scale up as a player when creating your Tolnar character. The Tolnar will also apparently have a unique starting point in the Underrealm, a whole different layer of the world map. All races and cultures I described here will be playable, each with their own flavors and stats. Each race will also have their own unique starting locations as well, including having access to racial mounts. So for example, the human races would be getting a horse, while orcs would get something that's not a horse but more fit for orcs to ride, which is pretty cool. There are also other confirmed races in the world of Ashes of Creation, such as giants, trolls, Sladeborn, treants, and goblins, but those aren't playable, so we'll focus on them later. The race of the demographic that also contributes the most to the building of a player node, such as a metropolis or a city or a village, will influence the aesthetics of the entire node, including the language and lore of NPCs residing in the lore, the architecture style of the buildings, and other benefits that will also be checked by attrition mechanics that will attempt to check one race from becoming too singularly powerful from dominating one server. So, your character's race and other customization features may also have an effect on the appearance of your gear and size of weapons. Races are thankfully not gender or class locks like some other MMOs, but once you choose your character's race, you can't change it. Also, some quests or narratives may be based on a character's race as well, which is a pretty cool immersive feature in my opinion, and this feature will also apparently play in how NPCs react to you as well, which is a nice touch, especially if you've played things like Star Wars: The Old Republic or The Elder Scrolls Online. Although Ashes seems determined on adding more to this aspect beyond a single line of dialogue or option. For example, races could also change how a skill looks or works like as well, which is really interesting. And this is a quote from the Ashes of Creation Kickstarter. In keeping with our theme of consequence, and unlike other games, race won't just be a matter of look, with relatively inconsequential abilities tacked on. Instead, they integrate deeply into our class system, augmenting and changing the basis chassis provided by our 8 core archetypes. Our goal here is to create a system where an elven fighter feels different, but serves the same role as a dwarven fighter. But what about the stats? And this was the part that worried me. As some of my regular viewers would know, I don't think aesthetics should play too much of a singular or outstanding role in setting a sort of meta or best in slot playstyle to the point where it could become a predatory pay-to-convenience model like in the Elder Scrolls Online. Thankfully, it seems the developers for Ashes of Creation thought a little bit about this potential issue, stating that the primary archetype or class of your character along with gear will have the most amount of impact on your character's power. Stephane Sheriff himself has stated from PAX East 2018 that different races have different stat compositions, those stats can be important, but we also don't want them to dictate any kind of meta for what classes are best used with different races. I think the sentiment is great, and hopefully it worked out with how vast the combat system seems to be enough to the point where, in a sense, the racial stats or passes may not matter too much on an individual basis. I think the philosophy, or the current philosophy of Ashes of Creation's gameplay balance around group play will serve as a good balancing check against the concept of racial stats as well, as opposed to focusing on individual play. So I'm curious to see if that alone would be enough. Hopefully Alpha 2 and the following betas 1 and 2 will flesh out both the races system and the combat balancing with how the races work with the classes. But what do you guys think about the races so far? Are you satisfied with the world building, the lore, the appearance, the aesthetics, the vision for how the races will have such a wide spectrum of effects on the world the players will go through. What are your concerns? Let me know down in the comments below, and as always, feel free to join the Ashes creation discussions either in the official Ashes Academy Discord server or my personal Discord server linked in the description below. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you have a wonderful week, day, month, wherever you may be. Stay safe, have fun, and see you guys next time.